Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Dolly's flower. One spring day, Dolly the ladybird was planting a flower in front of her house when Bubble the flower beetle appeared.
Will it grow big?
He asked Dolly. Yes, it will grow into a big bush covered in flowers. By the time summer arrived, the bush was covered in flowers. Everybody who passed by took a deep breath of the sweet scent. It's beautiful, said Flutter admiringly, and so did Berry, Balthazar, Stanley and Bubble. By the middle of the summer, the sun was at its hottest. Dolly was busy watering her flower when Christopher the Canary delivered an invitation to her door. It's from Katie. She's invited me to go and visit her. And she sounded very excited.
You go, Dolly, and I'll water your flower.
Thank you, Bubble. I'll be away for 6 days. Please water my flower every day, otherwise it will dry out.
I won't forget, don't worry,
Bubble promised. Bubble dutifully watered the flower the next day and the day after that, both morning and night. He passed Flutter's house on his way home. The butterfly girl was busy painting her roof yellow.
I'd like to paint my house too.
I've got plenty of paint left. You can have some if you like.
Thank you.
He started painting his house first thing the following morning. He was so busy painting that he forgot all about the flower for the next couple of days. He only remembered again when Dolly came home and knocked on his door in floods of tears. Bubble, my flower's all dried out.
Oh, I completely forgot,
the flower beetle exclaimed. The two of them stood next to the wilting plant. They watered it, but it made no difference. The bush's branches drooped sadly down and petals lay scattered on the ground. Rain is the only thing that can help here, Stanley the stag beetle announced. A real summer shower that soaks the soil. Come along and rain again, so the leaves grow big and strong and the branches good and long. Come and rain all night and day, come and rain so we can play. Come and rain and never stop. But it still did not rain. Bubble really wanted to cheer Dolly up. He thought hard about how he could make things better. Then he suddenly had an idea.
Dear Cloud, sprinkle a little rain on our forest. Dolly's very sad because her flower has dried out.
It's getting late and I'm sleepy. I'll do it tomorrow, the cloud said drowsily. And with that, the cloud closed its eyes and fell asleep. When Dolly stepped out of her little house, a fat drop of rain plopped into her hand. It's raining! Hurry! It's raining, Berry! It's raining! It rained more and more. Dolly and her friends had never been so happy to see it rain. The bush stretched a little and lifted up its drooping branches. It opened up its flowers once more and drank the rainwater up. Look, it's not drooping its branches anymore. It's grown stronger again, said the ladybird girl.
It's not only grown stronger, it's grown bigger.
Bubble gathered up handfuls of flower petals and flew up to the cloud.
Thank you.
And he sprinkled it all over with the scented petals.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Bubbles' Tower. It was a lovely summer afternoon and Bubble the baby beetle decided to play with his colourful building blocks. I'm going to build a tall tower with my blocks, he thought to himself and carried them to a hill nearby. He tipped the bright blocks out of their box in the shade of a big oak tree. As the tower grew, it was harder and harder for Bubble to reach the top. He had to stand on tiptoe and was just reaching for the top when his hand slipped and the tower tumbled to the ground. "Oh no," Bubble complained. "Now I have to start all over again." So the baby beetle started again from the beginning. The tower soon began to grow and was very tall indeed. But oh dear, an acorn from the oak tree knocked the baby beetle's tower down. "My lovely tower! My tower's ruined again! It was the silly oak tree's fault," he said out loud. So little Bubble started again, but this time he moved out from under the old oak tree. He was stacking the blocks on top of each other when his friends Berry the snail, Dolly the ladybug and Stanley the stag beetle came walking over. "Wow, you've built a beautiful tower, Bubble," they all said.
Yes, it's nearly finished. All I have to do is put the red triangle on the very top.
But then the wind blew and toppled his tall tower. Bubble got very angry.
I don't believe it. I don't want to build towers anymore. I'm going home.
His friends ran after him. "Bubble, wait! Why don't we rebuild your tower together?"
No, I don't want to build towers anymore. You can't build a really high tower with this many blocks anyway,
grumbled. He went into his house and slammed the door shut. "How can we help Bubble?" Dolly puzzled.
"We've got to think of a way to cheer him up somehow."
"I know what we can do," Stanley said. "I've got another set of building blocks at home. I'll go and fetch them so we can build a really high tower together." "That's a super idea. I've a box full of building blocks too."
"And I'll bring mine. We'll build the tallest tower ever."
Berry pulled his blocks in a little trailer. Dolly pushed hers in a wheelbarrow and Stanley carried his in a big basket. "Hello, Bubble! Look, we brought our building blocks. Why don't we build a big tower together?" Dolly asked nicely.
"We could build it in your house so that the wind won't knock it down again," Berry added. "Goodness me! Look at all those building blocks. We'll be able to build a very big tower with them,"
the baby beetle said with a smile. And now it's time to pop the red triangle on the top. You should put it on, Bubble, Stanley suggested. Hooray! It's finished! They all shouted together. Then Berry, Dolly and Stanley said goodnight to Bubble. The baby beetle went to bed very happy that night. He stared at the tower until he fell fast asleep.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
Lanterns. The fireflies lived in a little round house that hung from the branch of a tree on the top of a hill. They woke up one summer morning to find their house was blowing back and forth like a giant swing. "There's a storm outside, the wind's rocking the house," one of the fireflies said in a terrified tone. We'll have to stop it or the house will break off the branch, a second firefly shouted, but it was already too late. The rope broke and the house began to fall. Ah! The fireflies shouted and flew out of the windows as quickly as they could. No one was hurt, but the house was ruined. The forest friends gathered to see what all the noise was about. "The house is smashed up," cried the littlest firefly, and he ran to Dolly.
"We'll build you a new one,"
Balthazar offered. "The biggest problem is that all our lanterns broke," the head firefly told them.
"We'll stick them back together somehow,"
Berry nodded. "No, Berry, they can't be stuck back together. We have to go and see the great lightning beetle. Only he can give us new lanterns," the firefly informed him. "When do we leave?" the others asked. "Right away." The fireflies all set off.
"Have a good trip,"
Berry and Dolly shouted after them. They flew for 3 long days. They spent the first night under the cap of a mushroom. On the second night, they cuddled up in a cave. Then on the 3rd day, they arrived at the lightning beetle's house. The old beetle's house looked just like the fireflies' lamps, but it was much bigger. The lightning beetle slowly opened the door. He had difficulty moving around and his silver wings draped down over his bent back. He wore a tall, poky hat and his beard hung down to the ground. He looked just like a wizard. "Come on in," he muttered. The fireflies told him how their house had fallen to the ground and how all their lanterns had smashed. "That's what's happened. Only you can help." "Very well, I'll help you. I'll give you all new lanterns, but you need to take good care of them. You're the only ones in the forest who can bring light to the dark night." One by one, he carefully handed the lamps to the fireflies. "Hold them tight," he said, and he waved his stick, and the light magically appeared in the lamps. "They're so pretty, thank you. We promise that we'll take good care of our new lanterns," the fireflies told him, and then they all flew out of the house. "Where are we going to live when we get home?" they asked each other in a worried buzz. But they did not have to worry for long. Hey, come over here, this is your new house," shouted Berry, Dolly, Balthazar, Flutter, Stanley and all the other forest friends.
"We built you a house in the hole in this tree," said Berry.
"And we made the windows and a door," Flutter continued.
"Your house definitely won't fall down again now," Balthazar announced with pride.
"Thank you,"
the fireflies all said, and they went tiredly to bed. They climbed into the 15 beds and were all soon fast asleep.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
April, Bouncy Castle. It was April, and the pigeon brought the ants a parcel. "Who sent it?" the children asked. "My friends, the red ants, sent it from the forest next door," the queen ant explained. They opened the sizable parcel to reveal a bouncy castle. "Hooray! Let's blow it up!" the little ants cheered, and they all started to pump the colourful contraption. The castle soon grew to its full size. The queen ant asked Dr. Owl to call everyone to the meadow. "Hey, everyone, come and jump. Come to the ant castle, Dr. Owl shouted. No one wanted to miss the chance to bounce on the castle. The only one to miss out was the snail boy, who had gone to visit Snail Sam. Soon after that, the sky darkened and a storm began. The little beetles all ran into the ants' house. Then the rain turned to hailstones, and all the little pieces of ice punched holes in the bouncy castle. By the time the storm had passed, the bouncy castle was as flat as a pancake. Just then Berry arrived home. By now it was too late for him to try the bouncy castle because it had completely deflated and lay flat on the top of the hill. "I miss the bouncy castle," Berry said with a sob. "Don't be sad. We'll stick it and blow it up again," Dolly reassured the snail boy. Berry did not say a single word, but just set off home with his head hung low. Then he got straight into a hot bath to warm himself. He got his bath toys out, but even his favourite whale could not cheer him up. The others all thought hard how they could make Berry happy again. "We could make our own bouncy castle and put mattresses on top of each other," the bee suggested. "That won't work. They'll all slide apart and we'll all fall off," Stanley sulked. "We could stretch a sheet between the trees like we did when the kite escaped," said Flutter. Not bad, but we've done that before." "Anyone got a new idea?" Dolly asked. "I have," shouted Bubble. "Once, when Dolly's flowers dried out, I asked a friendly cloud to make some rain. Maybe this time I could ask it to let Berry jump on it for a little while." "But Berry can't fly. How will he get up on a cloud?" Balthazar puzzled. "We'll take him up," said Dolly. And so Bubble flew up to the largest cloud and discussed the plan with it. Meanwhile, the friends all hurried to Berry's house. "We're going to take you bouncing," Flutter told the snail boy. "Just hold on tight," said Dolly. And they picked him up and flew up high in the sky. The cloud happily let Berry bounce about on it and then waved to Dolly when it had had enough. "I think that will do for now." The little friends thanked it for helping out and then flew Berry back down to the ground again. "That was really super, thank you," Berry said with a grin, and he hugged his pals. It took the ants several days to mend all the holes, but they eventually finished. And this time, Berry did not miss the chance to have fun with the others.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The hot air balloon. One summer afternoon, a storm blew up in the forest. Dolly the ladybird and Berry the snail sat watching it from the spotty house. The wild wind twisted the trees and blew the roofs off houses. The rain came down in buckets. When the rain and wind finally stopped, the two friends took a look around the forest. "Look, Dolly, the wind blew this tree over," Berry said. "And the rain washed away my flowers," Dolly sighed. Leapy the grasshopper came rushing in. "Dolly, Berry, come quickly! Someone's lying in the meadow." The friends found an oil beetle lying in the meadow. "Oh, what happened to you? What's your name? Who are you?"
I'm Adet the oil beetle. I live up in the mountains, but the wind blew me down here and I hit my head really hard. My wings are weak and I can't fly. I don't know how I'm going to get home. The oil beetle sniffled. They lifted Adet up and carried her into Leapy's house. Don't worry, Dolly said eventually. We'll help you get home. That afternoon, Balthazar the bee, Flutter the butterfly and Stanley the stag beetle all came to see Adet. They tried to think of ways to help her get home. The best thing would be a hot air balloon, Stanley said. But what could we use to make a balloon? Berry asked. We could use blankets, pillows and sheets, Flutter suggested. And curtains and towels too, Stanley added. They got to work immediately. They stitched all the blankets, curtains, sheets and towels together. It took a while to get everything finished, but Adet helped as much as she could. Every day she was feeling stronger, and even her head had stopped hurting. It's ready, said Stanley. Thank you, the oil beetle replied happily. Hooray! We're flying! Berry exclaimed. Wow, it's beautiful! We can see the whole forest from here, Dolly laughed. It started to get dark. When they eventually arrived, Adet cried out, Hooray! I'm home! Thank you. Please stay the night and watch the shooting stars with me. We'd love to, the little friends said. Adet quickly made them something to eat and gave them delicious cakes and tea. After dinner, they all sat down in front of Adet's house and waited for shooting stars to appear in the night sky. Hooray! I saw a shooting star! Berry exclaimed excitedly. Me too, Dolly said. And me, added Stanley. They went into Adet's house when it got colder and sat and watched the stars through the window. They all made a wish and fell fast asleep. As she slowly drifted to sleep, Adet wished that someday she would meet her new friends again.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
May, the Runaway Raft. It was a sunny day in May, and Stanley the stag beetle and Balthazar the bee were sitting quietly on the riverbank. Stanley started to build a little raft from the twigs he found by the waterside. He tied the twigs together with long blades of grass and finished it with a sail made from a leaf. Look, it's ready, he said as he proudly showed it to Balthazar. Let's put it on the water. Let's see how it sails, the bee boy suggested. Let's follow it, Balthazar enthused. They followed the raft on its way. They were keen to see how far it would go. Suddenly, the sky turned dark. The boys did not know what to do. Oh dear, where are we? Asked Balthazar. I don't know. We seem to have wandered away from our forest, Stanley stated. Let's turn back before it starts to rain, the bee said with concern. Okay, wait, I'll bring the raft, said Stanley, but the little boat had vanished from view. Leave it. You can build another raft. They had only taken a few steps when the storm broke. How will we get home now? Balthazar panicked. Grab my feet and I'll fly you both home, said a voice from above. The boys looked up and saw Christopher Canary. They took a firm hold of his feet. They were making very good progress until a sudden gust of wind blew Christopher off course. Stanley and Balthazar both fell, but thankfully landed on a soft mossy carpet. Let's shelter in that hole, said Stanley, pointing to a tree. They waited and waited for the storm to pass, but slowly fell fast asleep. And there they slept until they were woken by Spider.
Wake up! What happened to you two? Are you all right?
The worried Spider asked.
Come on, the storm's over and the rain's nearly stopped. Climb onto my back and we'll go to my cave. Then I'll happily take you home.
Thank you, the tired boys said, and they hopped onto Spider's back. Meanwhile, the sun came out and a rainbow stretched across the sky. They soon arrived at the cave. Spider gave them dry towels and treated them to a snack of wafer biscuits and hot tea. Later, when they were fed and rested, they set off home again. Spider carried them both back, and they thanked him for his help. The next morning, Christopher the Canary tapped on Stanley's window. Good morning! I just wanted to check that you are both okay, the bird tweeted. We were very worried about you too. We're fine. It started out as a boring day, but then it got a little too adventurous, the stag beetle chuckled. Balthazar and Stanley went back to the riverbank the next day. Should we make a raft? Stanley laughed as he asked his pal. Yes, but let's not follow it. If it floats away, it floats away, said Balthazar.
Berry and Dolly say, what will we learn today?
The Kite. Berry the snail was still asleep when Dolly the ladybird knocked on his window. Good morning, Berry. Let's make a kite. Dolly drew a kite and Berry cut it out. They decorated it with colourful ribbons and then they tied it to a long piece of string. Let's see if it flies, Dolly said. They took each other's hand and set off to fly their kite. But no matter how hard the two of them tried, the kite just wouldn't fly. I'll climb up this tree and try it from there. Maybe then it'll fly, Dolly explained. But the kite just fell to the ground again. All of a sudden, the wind blew up and carried the kite away and took Dolly with it. Berry! Help! Berry climbed up the tree and grabbed Dolly's feet, but he couldn't pull her back, so now the two of them were flying. Balthazar the bee flew by. He caught hold of Berry's feet, but he couldn't pull the kite back either, so now the three of them were flying. Eddie the potato beetle was sitting on top of a pine tree. He caught Balthazar's feet, so now the four of them were flying.
Leapy! Help!
Balthazar cried to the grasshopper, who was just hopping by. Leapy caught Eddie's feet, so now the 5 of them were flying. The wind got stronger and stronger. Flutter the butterfly flew by. She caught Leapy's feet, so now the 6 of them were flying. Stanley the stag beetle and Zephyr the dragonfly looked at their friends in despair. Oh dear, the wind's blowing us right into the forest. The kite got tangled in the top of a tall tree, and they landed in the treetops. The wind died down, and the sun came out. Berry gave the ladybird a worried look. Dolly, I can't fly. How am I going to get down from here? Don't worry, Berry. I'm sure we'll think of something.
I know what to do. Jump into this blanket, Berry. Don't be afraid. You won't hurt yourself.
Berry jumped down into the blanket and bounced back up in the air. Look at me. This is fun. We want to try, the others shouted. The little friends jumped up and down on the blanket until it got dark. Long after they were all in bed asleep, the wind blew up again and carried the kite far, far away.